Hey guys, it's JoAnn Ray, and I am super excited to be bringing you season 3 of A Human Connection. And just like all the other seasons, we're going to be bringing to you some of the most influential people in this industry, some people that I have followed and have mentored me along my 30 plus year career in this business. So, hope you join along with us so we laugh and we learn along the way. Well, hey guys, welcome to another edition of A Human Connection. I'm super excited today. So I've only known this guest, I think, maybe a couple of years, but man, have we had some of those just really good conversations. And I knew that from the second that I started talking to him that he would be the perfect guest to have here so that all of you can learn so much from Justin the way that I have over our time and over our fun conversations. So this is Justin Reinig, Executive Director of Oberlin Marketing in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
Indiana. Yeah.
So welcome to Human Connection, Justin.
Thanks. No, super excited to be on your show, JoAnn. So we're on your time. We're answering your question.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll keep it very informal. But the first thing everybody always likes to know is kind of walk us through a little bit of your bio, how you got to Oberlin, how you got to where you are now.
Yeah.
Then we can kind of peel back some of the layers of family and fun and what motivates you and how you continue to motivate others. I want to know about that saying right behind your head that says ducks fly together. I want to know all about that. But let's start with a little bit about Justin and how you got to where you are now.
Sure. I've been at Oberlin about 6 years. And actually started here as our director of marketing, just kind of coming in and really coordinating a lot of things we do on that side of things, and was actually brought in and helped clean up the mess from kind of an ugly departure by my predecessor. So I know we all kind of know sometimes what that looks like, but repairing relationships for probably the first year that I was on the team. So a lot of that built a lot of good trust, I think, of our team as well as our peers in the industry. And it wasn't long until I was asked to just become a bigger part of what we do here, and eventually kind of moving into the executive director seat and really leading us from that executive team side. So super thankful to be on the team I'm on, but it's we do about anything under the life and health umbrella. So I kind of have to have my hands in everything we do. Before Oberlin, I would say, that I got my start in operations management. My education in college, I have a math and physics double major.
And that's awesome. So a math and a physics degree. How does that guy end up in insurance?
Oh, man, I'll give you the short road.
Okay.
But really right out of college, got pulled into roles where I could kind of exercise both of those things because I was probably a rare nerd that could also work with people.
Yeah.
I had this liking for numbers and analytics and how things worked, but I also was dynamic enough to lead people and lead teams. And that probably came from an athletic background and being able to just be a part of things bigger than myself, right? And so that put me into these operations management roles. I went to college just outside of Detroit. So if you know anything about the Detroit area, it's heavy in the automotive industry. So a lot of really, really good opportunities with automotive companies and suppliers and different things to lead teams just for greater things. So that was right out of college, my immersion into people leadership as well as process leadership. And kind of launched from there, into, again, some more opportunities to just continue to lead people, lead processes, refine things. That just kind of became what I was good at. And really continued that until I had an opportunity to start doing business consulting. Ran across a guy named Dave Ashton, he kind of became one of my many mentors along the way as well. But just to be able to learn how to step into a business or step into a situation that maybe was less than ideal, and be able to just kind of sit in it with them and go, let's create a way out. Let's create a way forward. Let's create a maybe more positive future than what we see in our past. So I was able to do that along with being involved in some ministries around our hometown and really trying to help teams not fall through the cracks of society. And so I have this smorgasbord of all of these experiences And I run into Dan Oberlin at a wedding, and
Oh,
he says, well, my wife told me, like, you might be thinking about, like, pushing all that across the table and just doing one thing and, like, investing it all in one place. And I'm like, yeah. He's like, when are you doing that? And I was like, I don't know. And, and he said, oh, you
where's
got to
he
work with
at?
us. You got to work with us. And so it wasn't 2 weeks, and we had already kind of worked out how I was going to step in at Oberlin and help. And so extremely grateful for Dan. The crazy connection was, like, I played, like, little types basketball with his son, and he was like my basketball coach in, like, second grade. So he could probably attest to my maturity improvement from, like, how I reacted as a second grade basketball player to today. So
Oh my
really
gosh.
thankful for kind of the road that it took
Yeah.
me. But, I think all in all, it's put me in a spot to kind of bring all of those skill sets together and use them.
That is awesome. I love that story. I did not know all of that. So lots of pieces in there I want to kind of pull apart. But it was funny that you met Dan Oberlin at a wedding, because the last guest that we had on, Greg Etchison, who I've known most of my entire career, he actually fell into the insurance business by being at a wedding that he wasn't going to go to. He didn't really want to go, and it changed the course of his life from a conversation at a wedding. So maybe we're on to something here. I don't know. I need to dig a little
It's a
deeper into
people
that.
business. I think those relationships go wherever there's
Yeah.
people. No.
Absolutely. So I just find that super interesting. I love people's story. There's so few people in our industry that are as successful as you are, that literally sought out this career and then worked your way up, falling into to the start. I fell into it. This was my first, big girl job, as we say, and just
Yeah.
knew right away. Obviously, it looked different back then, but I knew right away that the people that I was associating myself with were painting the right kind of picture that I always thought about in my mind. So, love that story. You also mentioned very briefly in there, very humbly, your work with teens. So, walk us through that. What's that all about? Where'd that come from?
Yeah, I started working, and my wife and I have kind of supported Youth for Christ along the way for, like, years and years, and one of their primary efforts over the years have been, like, unchurched youth, unchurched teens, and people that, and really young people that kind of end up falling through the cracks. And I think I mentioned that phrase a little earlier, but I think a lot of times we have seen kids kind of be swept up either in the church systems or maybe even through school programs. But what happens when a kid doesn't find the people? What happens when a young person doesn't find mentors in their life to kind of point them, the direction they need to be able to find themselves? So, yeah, I feel like it really got put, definitely on my heart to become a lot more involved in that. To even where, like, I was on, I was on staff with Youth for Christ for a while, and like helped them grow some ministries and, like, really build some relationships that are with me till this day.
Oh, I love that.
I have some really crazy but cool, touching stories, like, about that too. But, like, I think what's neat is it put us in a really neat spot to just stand in the gap for some people that desperately needed somebody to be in their corner, and it's given us chances to, I've officiated weddings of some of these people, like, I'm not joking, but, like, one of them just called me an hour ago and was asking for life advice and was like, and she was just like, I need to call with a father figure, and I don't really have that, and you're it. And I'm like,
Wow.
so, like,
That's
yeah,
the
it's been
best.
years since we were probably immersed in that. The opportunity to continue doing that for people, yeah, I don't know. Like, I'll probably
Incredible.
continue on talking about it. So,
No, I think that's incredible, and it's always amazing for me to see too, because I see both sides of our business. I see the staff that we get to bring in and help motivate and inspire and empower, and I also see the agents. We have a career agency here, and then all the thousands of agents that you and I work with all across, and then now all across the Integrity platform. It's so cool for me to see somebody who, like you just mentioned, maybe didn't have that silver spoon, maybe didn't have the right path in school, maybe never had that right mentor or that right parental figure or educational advice. And now look at this place that we can offer them, whether it's an employee in our company or they can go, if they're self-starters, they can become an agent, and then it's the sky's the limit. So I love that about this industry. I remember when we were going through COVID and all the different types of industries, mostly restaurants and retail,
Mhm.
where they were just losing people left and right because they, for whatever reason, still haven't figured all that out. But a lot of the reasons that they gave was because there wasn't a lot of purpose in the job that they were doing for the amount of money they were making. And everybody was looking for their purpose. And we're over here going, hello,
Yeah.
this is one of the
Come
most
on.
noble professions. No, please come, please come. We not only can show you an income and a career path, but you're making a difference in people's lives every day, whether it's the life of the agent, if you're on staff, or whether it's that life of our ultimate consumer, the senior. So I
Yeah.
love that you've kind of taken that passion out here that's completely outside of work, but yet that thread just runs all the way through, I'm sure, when you're talking to young staff, young agents, bringing them on board.
And I think what's super powerful is helping people understand like the difference between like having to find yourself in your vocation and finding yourself in your tool belt. So what I mean is like so many people. So I'll give you an example while telling a story. My mom, like, I'm like in my 40s and my mom still believes like I'm going to be a teacher and coach one day. And like every time we talk about this, I'm like, Mom, I am a teacher and coach. That's who I am. That doesn't have to be the job I have. And like, I'm going to apply the gifts like that I've been given and blessed with wherever I sit.
Oh,
And I think what's been cool, even along the way, like we talk about like life journey, right?
yeah.
I think it's been really cool. I have 3 daughters. Like it's been really neat to be able to share with my kids and say, I'm more than a title. I'm just trying to take an inventory of what God's put in my tool belt. And like, I'm just going to use them. And like, I can do that in this industry. I could have done it anywhere, but like, I'm super thankful I'm doing it in this industry at this place. And, even, with the company we get to kind of be, partnered in, right? Like little cousin companies. And I think it's fun because we're a part of a greater purpose, something bigger than ourselves. And it's harder for some people than others. Some people that have been a part of team sports inherently understand it. Maybe some others that struggle.
I love that. My parents also thought the same thing of me. I come from a very long line of teachers. Like my mom, all of her siblings, all of their spouses, my grandparents, all of their, I mean, literally the lineage of teachers that came before me and my 2 siblings, and we all went completely different directions. So I understand that pull and that tug. Maybe you just start wearing a whistle around your neck when you see your mom. Maybe that'll help her like convince you truly are a coach.
I still coach, but like she thinks like, yeah, I need to be wearing some hat at a high school and, so.
That's awesome. I love
One day maybe.
I love the tool belt analogy too, because we're always, depending on which situation we're put in, okay, which tool do I need here? And who do I rely on that maybe I know has that tool or that set of strengths that I can rely on. So yeah, that's a great analogy.
And I think it's freeing. I think sometimes we get stuck in a spot and we almost lose our sense of ourselves, right? Like we lose our sense of like what we've already been equipped to dig out of the hole with.
Yeah.
And there's so many times when you think it's not us, but in all actuality, there's so many situations we're putting in life, and I think all we have to do is remind ourselves of what we already need.
Yeah.
We already need, and we have that skill in us. So call it out of ourselves.
My team will tell you that they hear this a lot. We're digging in, we're solving a problem, we're building something, we're trying to solve, have some solution to something. And then I always go, wait a minute, guys, let's all back up and let's look at the why. Why did we start this project? Why did we start this team? Why did we start this event? Doesn't matter, fill in any blank. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, well, that's no longer, so we don't need to worry about it anymore. Or all you got to do is go back to your why. And then all of a sudden we're trying to make things way too difficult when it's usually right there in front of us. We'll talk about books and some of our favorite places to go get motivation. But Simon Sinek is one of my favorite where, the why. Find your why. As companies, do you even know what your why is? It's kind of like the North Star, right? Once you figure out what your North Star is, every decision kind of becomes pretty easy because we don't want to deviate from going in that direction.
Yeah. So one thing I think we've tried on our team is playing with one sentence job descriptions.
Oh, I like
And
that.
I know that's super dangerous when it comes to job descriptions because you always want to add like the line at the end that says other duties as assigned. Like we all know, we all know that phrase.
I'm important. I really
Um,
am.
yeah, but at the same time, like it's actually freeing because sometimes like if you feel like you can't do everything, do one thing. And like there's a lot of times like you have to just be grounded back to like your anchor statement. Like why does your role exist? And if it doesn't jive with that purpose, like maybe it's something that's fracturing energy and it's not something that's truly funneling you toward progress, right? Like, because then you start like mistaking activity for progress.
Mm-hmm. I'm busy. I'm busy,
So,
busy. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Well, it's
yeah,
like
that's
we
a fun
teach
game. I like
the,
how you focus your team.
yeah, it's like we teach the agents, our agents learn early on what's your elevator pitch. Like somebody comes up to you at a party, at an event, at a conference, in the grocery store, whatever. What do you do for a living? And if you don't have that one sentence, doesn't have to be a wow factor, but it's got to kind of be all encompassing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard because kind of what we do is kind of hard to describe. Like when you go to your family and talk about what Oberlin Marketing does,
Yeah,
it's, I know what we do, but sometimes it is hard to relay it into that one sentence format.
it is. It is. And I think that, and I think you're right. Like there's a lot of times too, and for us, we're involved a little bit like on the direct consumer side, but like 99% of what we do is supporting the agent across the table from the family, and that's really what the way I've explained it is. Okay, every one of us is probably growing to the point where we think we need life insurance or some sort of a health insurance.
Yeah.
When that agent comes and sits at your kitchen table and learns about your life and your goals and all those things, when he leaves your kitchen table, he calls us. And we're going to help them find the best solution on the market for you that matches where you're heading in life, and
I like that.
that's about the only way, but you're so right. Like that's such a struggle because it's so hard. I mean, if insurance marketing, it just has a weird connotation because they think, do you create websites? Do
Yeah.
you do marketing? Can you design my logo? Like,
Yeah. No, we
so,
can't.
yeah.
Yeah. And we talk about agent, so that in layman's terms, that word agent means so many different things. That people think real estate agent or
Yeah.
you're my agent, you advising my career. So we always have to say insurance agent. Then the second you say insurance, they're like, oh, car insurance or no, Medicare. Oh, okay. Then it just gets, so I can complicate it a lot. We've worked on that actually a lot of what our elevator pitch is. I love Brian Adams. Well, that's a good statement there. I love Brian Adams. But one of the things that I love that he says is, oh gosh, I should get this right. Justin, help me. We're
You
there.
can't name drop and get the quote wrong.
That didn't work out very well at all, did it? To prepare for to
The good days
be
ahead.
there. Yeah. Prepare to be there for the good days ahead. Yeah. And make sure that on that day when somebody has to go to the hospital or somebody has to be in a funeral home planning for something or preparing for an illness, that's when the promises that we made, that's where it kicks in. And quick story on that, my brother, he's a big construction worker and never really understood my world from a business standpoint. Knew I did insurance and all of that, but never really kind of grasped the whole thing. Well, 5 years ago, he was in a really bad accident and had to spend a lot of time in the hospital and then a lot of time in a rehab facility. And he had great insurance through work. And boy, I tell you what, to this day, Justin, he is like, I should hire him because he is like one of the biggest proponents of health insurance. Because being in construction, so many of his buddies either didn't have insurance or had just whatever the premium they felt they could afford. So it was very basic. And he knows that as serious as his illness was, I mean, he was in the hospital months. He knows without that, they would have set him aside somewhere and he'd still be sitting in a corner right now. He wouldn't have had the best treatment, the best hospitals, the best specialists, all because his employer took care of his group health insurance in the best way possible. So it's so funny until you're in it, you don't always appreciate it because he was definitely the type that, insurance, all they do is take money out of my paycheck. And now he tells everybody, man, you got to have good health insurance.
And I think super interesting is, and we talk a little bit with our newer agents as well. It's like, don't forget some of the first things you learned, like in your classes.
Yep.
Like one of the very most fundamental things you learn is like insurance 101. Like,
Yep.
what's the definition of insurance? It's transfer of risk.
Yep.
Like, and make no mistake, that's why 22-year-olds don't think they need life insurance because they don't think they have any risk. We're
We're gonna live
invincible,
forever.
right? Like we're all invincible. Nothing, don't have any risks. Nothing bad's going to happen to us.
Yep.
So I think sometimes we forget the inherent sales pitch of what we do is like, we're just taking some of that risk off your table so it doesn't jeopardize some other goals you have in life. The conversation very rarely is about, oh, do you need this insurance product? We're
Right.
actually using those products to protect the future you hope for yourself.
I love that. You should write that. You should teach agents that, Justin.
I should think about that.
You should be a coach. You should
I'll
go around
try.
the country coaching agents that.
There you go.
I don't know if you've ever
Maybe I'll
thought
do
of that or
one
not.
day.
I'll call your mom. We'll get it worked out.
Deal.
So one of the things I keep looking at, and those of you that are just listening, but behind Justin's, let's see, left shoulder is a quote that says, "Ducks fly together." Tell us why that's so meaningful to you.
It just happens to be the quote that's up there. Those that know me really well know I'm probably a walking book of one-liners. Like that's just who I am. And so like to the point that I'm writing a book for my girls, that's kind of based on that. But I have 3 daughters.
I forgot
And
about that story. Oh, we got to come back to that. Go ahead with this.
okay,
We got
yeah.
to come back to that.
And but I was like an 80s and 90s kid, right? Like so I grew up with the Mighty Ducks.
Yeah.
And so that Disney movie, The Mighty Ducks, like one of the things they chant is ducks fly together. And what was really interesting was like that was one of the very first things, like even with mantras in our own house for our own kids, we wanted one-liners like for our kids to remember. We wanted it to have a 3-second phrase that might remind them of a 30-minute conversation. So yeah, we have those sit downs at the kitchen table and you're talking about, hey, we're treating each other this way and here's why. And it might involve some discipline. It might involve some different things. But the next time I hopefully in the Rolodex memory of themselves, right? Like I can go, hey, ducks fly together. Like what's going on? And hopefully in 3 seconds, I can remind them of that 30-minute lesson. And like, that's really all mantras are about. And like, certainly with a household of 3 girls, like, and we need to remind ourselves, like, that we're flying together. And to be honest, the reason ducks fly together is they go further together, right? Like we've all heard the phrase, like, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go further, go together. There's a reason why ducks fly in direct formation is because they can go further with less effort if they work together.
I love that. So I'm going to come back to the book, but quick side story. When my son was probably 10, 11, 12, somewhere in there, he was convinced he was going to the NFL. So we were, definitely supporting him in that dream at 10 that he was going to the NFL. But we were sitting around watching the Heisman Awards that year. And I couldn't tell you, I'm sure my husband or my son could tell you, but I don't remember who won, but I remember his speech. Because the one thing that he said that meant the most to him, that got his mindset in the right direction from very early on, he said, my mom has quotes all over the house. Like she loves positive quotes and motivational quotes and inspirational quotes. And it's all over the house, which meant it was all through our family. And Brandon and I, my son, we looked at each other and we started laughing because I have that. I love, having quotes everywhere, but I went and bought more. I went and got more for his room to put him in his bathroom so he sees it first thing when he wakes up. Because I believe in that, pouring that in subconsciously. Like you said, I love taking a 30-minute conversation. You can't sit down with them a week later and remind them and just recite that 30-minute conversation. But that 3 seconds, I love that analogy to keep pouring that in to whether it's our kids, our employees here. I want them the second they walk into this building that they feel that positive energy, that they feel that we're flying together, that they feel we're going to go farther, be better. I'm going to be a better human because I've got these guys around me. I hope that they feel that way too. And how do you do that? I don't know. One word, one smile, one analogy at a time, I think.
Well, and anybody that like loves sports, like they're familiar with like an organization winning the press conference,
Yep.
right? Like
Yeah.
there's organizations that are guilty of winning the press conference with a splash hire
Yeah.
or saying the most politically acceptable thing, but in the long run, it maybe doesn't like move their organization forward. And I think sometimes, like with competency, sometimes you can win the moment, but like those of us in this business that want to be want to last, we have to win the long game with character. And I think character doesn't always win the short game. It doesn't always win the moment. But you can look people in the eye and say, you know what, like I don't have to convince you in 10 seconds. I'll convince you over the next 10 minutes, or I'll convince you over the next 10 years.
Stick with me.
And you'll see it. And I think people with that type of like fortitude also aren't scared of that. They're like, hey, it's okay. Like you'll see who I am. You'll see how genuine I am, and it'll be okay.
Yeah. No, I love that. So let's go to the book. So you told me about this a while ago. I completely forgot about it until you mentioned it. This is one of the greatest dad stories of all time. So tell everybody about this.
That.
Oh, it is. It is. It's going to be so special. So tell everybody what you're writing.
I'm actually just writing it kind of for myself. Like it's a part of why I wanted to do it, and partially because I just don't have a great memory. So, but again, I think I mentioned like we use a lot of one-liners around our house, and they tend to be stuff that I say at the moment and then forget about, in the past. But I started to kind of start writing these one-liners down, and what I started to do was say, okay, here's this one-liner, and then really extrapolate like, here's what I mean when I say it. So again, really just going back to that mantra thought of saying, hey, I hope this is what you heard when I was saying this quote. Because like one day I'm not going to be here for my kids, like, and it's true. Like, and so that's the reason I'm naming the book, like the things I thought I told you. And like, and it's it, like, it doesn't have to be special. I'm not trying to sell it at Barnes and Noble. Like I just want to write it for my kids.
I would buy it.
So a good example is like one of the things I say a lot is nothing changes if nothing changes. And there's a lot of times that comes up in our house. Like one of my kids that wants to be better at running, but maybe she doesn't want to change her schedule to get up early to run. I'm like, nothing changes if nothing changes. And it like, boom, she's like, darn it. Okay, I have to do something different if I want to see change. So
how often, your kids are still young, but how often have they then repeated that quote back to you, either identifying it in themselves or saying, hey, Dad, nothing changes if nothing changes?
That's actually a cool story. It's because for me, probably about a year ago, like I feel like I really started to try to take my physical health a lot more seriously, for myself. And I think I made a comment like just offhandedly, like that it was just hard to get up in the morning and get on the treadmill, like something like that, right? And my daughters are 13, 11, and 7. And my 11-year-old at the time just looked at me and smirked. And as go ahead, say it. What? Like something's on your mind, right? And she goes, nothing changes if nothing changes, Dad. And I'm like, oh.
That hurt, but God, how proud were you in that moment, though, that she used it not only did she use it.
I was bitter. But oh my gosh, yeah, it's super cool because
she used it in the right context too. Like it wasn't just a word that she remembered that you threw out yesterday. She used it in the right context.
It's the same daughter that in the middle of like a really cool family discussion, she just looked at me like deadpan and was like, Dad, wouldn't it be cool if we had a double-decker couch? Like, so, I mean, like sometimes you get comments like that, and then sometimes they get the mantra right. So it's all good.
Couch. Well, I'm trying to picture what's just for fun.
Any listener or watcher, it's from the Lego movie.
I have not seen that yet. I have not seen
So for whatever reason, her brain was in Legoland while we were having this discussion about something totally different.
I get it.
And she just wanted to know how cool it is.
I think it'd be pretty cool, honestly. Oh my gosh. So in the few minutes here we have left, we could go literally all day. This is exactly why I asked you, because I know there's so many layers
Yeah.
to Justin, and I love your outlook on people. We share a very similar outlook on this industry and these people that we get the fortune of bringing into this industry, and then we get the burdens, not the right word, but we get the responsibility of making sure we're giving them the right tools and that we're giving them the right messages and the one-liners. Just like I always say, parenting and leadership are just so interconnected. What works here works there, what works at home works at work. But tell me, where do you get all of this? Like, you're pouring all this into not only your kids, but the kids at work, the kids with the programs that you're volunteering with. Where are you getting all of that?
I think I have like a really like insatiable curiosity. Like I have a really curious spirit.
Okay.
And so like I'm always watching documentaries. I'm always listening to podcasts. I'm always wanting to know the next thing. I don't know. I think sometimes I balance between a love to win and a hatred for loss in life. I don't know which one I want more. Like I don't want to lose, and I also want to win. And so at the end of the day, like that journey and kind of that balance between those two things really motivates me to say, like, man, to stay ahead, I've got to be learning. Like, because I almost have this vision of like life is like this escalator pointed back at you. And like you have to be walking a certain pace just to stay where you're at, let alone if you want to make progress. Yeah. And there's so much in me that I'm going, it almost borders on inferiority complex. And I think some of our best leaders that I've worked with and known, like JoAnn, I put you in that category. There's almost this assumption that there's a little bit of an inferiority complex, that you're almost afraid like somebody somewhere is getting better than me right now. And I think they hope I lay in bed. I think they hope that like my bed is comfy this morning and I don't get up early and I don't put extra time in it because they're moving ahead. And that's fine and I don't know. So I think for me, like it's that motivation to like, I gotta be better than yesterday. And if I'm not, I'm probably falling behind.
That's a great way to look at it. And I appreciate you including me in any of that. Because I do, and you nailed it. I mean, that is me to the core. That is you to the core. I would say that's most leaders within our stratosphere of, I'm not competing with you. I'm not competing with the guy in California. I'm not competing with somebody's app count, things like that. That doesn't drive me near as much as wanting to be seen and respected and wanting to make sure that we're building the best possible foundation. Because everything I do now, let's see if I can get this quote right. Everything I do now is for them, whether them is my children, them is the people I keep pointing outside this door, outside the studio, all of our employees. But there was a quote the other day that I saw that I'm planting shade trees knowing that I'll never sit under them. And then that, wasn't that good? That to me meant I worked for me and for my own family for a long time. Now I feel like the audience, the stage, not the stage, that's a weird thing. I don't want to be on stage, but the people that we have an impact on, that you touch on a daily basis, I'm just sitting here thinking of all the people that you probably touch on a daily basis, just and that you don't even know, right? And then what impact did that little one-liner or that little encouragement or smile, or you shook their hands and you said you were proud of them. Do you know what that does to somebody? Because my kids tease, or the employees here now tease, that there's the real world out there and then there's what happens here. We don't live in the real world necessarily because we do have this pretty nice, safe bubble here. Yeah. But in the real world, people don't always get that. And so you are the torchbearer of that. And man, if more people can see that and feel that and follow I want to be in your duck line. I want to follow right along with you. What a powerful thing that is.
Yeah, and I think I'm super thankful again. Like even if some of the mentors I've been lucky enough to have in my life, like from an early, like basketball was a thing that really anchored me. Or really all of athletics, but basketball, so much stuff makes sense to me, and so many lessons I learned even like I carry to like any role I'm in. And so here's why. Like one of my biggest mentors even growing up was my high school basketball coach.
Yeah.
And like, he was hard on me because I was a point guard. And he did not let up on me. And it was essentially like, I had the lead.
Yeah.
And every time I don't know how many times at practice, he'd look at me and he goes, "Hey, point guard, what's your job?" And probably for the first couple of practices, I'm like, I don't know, like, play defense, score more points than them. You know, I was throwing out every answer. And eventually, I think he was tired of me, you know, falling all over myself trying to find an answer. And he's like, "Your job is to make everyone around you better."
Oh.
And that's literally it. And like, it all made sense to me in a moment. Was that like, from that moment on, I would dive for each ball. I'd make the extra pass. I'd let somebody go first. If it made my teammate better, I'd be willing to do it because that was my job. And when I look at like people maybe in your seat or in my seat in volleyball, you know, there's so many people in this industry I respect a ton. I see us as point guards in our business units even, and then like, it's not about us. We're the facilitator of it, and maybe we help, but like, I'm just trying to get the ball to who needs to shoot today. But then that's okay.
Dang, that's good. I'm going to leave it right there because I will go downhill if I try to top that. That is awesome.
But I think you embody that, and that's what I say. Like, I think there's so many people in this industry I respect that I see it in too. So it makes me feel like, okay, that's not a one-off scenario that's Justin's. Like,
yeah,
that is, but we need to embrace that and just be that. It's freeing to just go ahead and make people better.
well, and I think when you're around other people that have that similar feeling, we're all going to go home and do different things with it. So the more conversations like this that we can have, you and I and Bobby and Sally and Timmy and Judy, the more people that we bring into the lineup of our ducks that are flying together, the more it's all about ducks today. Exactly. Aflac did not sponsor this podcast either. Should have had the little Aflac duck walking across. But I just think the more that conversation happens, the more that you're around those kinds of people, you know, iron sharpens iron, rising tides lift all boats, all the Bryan Adams.
Look at you with the one-liners.
I know, man. I am dropping the Bryan Adams quotes today because they're so meaningful, because he knows that that's what we're doing here within our own company, within Integrity, within this industry, within our communities, within our families. It all ties together so beautifully. So I'm glad that Integrity brought us together. I'm glad that we're partners or cousins, as you said. Now we're Integrity cousins. I love it. But thank you so much. This has been exactly what I knew it would be, which is people are going to want more and more and more one-liners and Justinisms and all the wealth of knowledge and character. I think that's, you know, try to always come up with maybe a word or a summary. I mean, to me, that summarizes you are a coach. You can tell your mom, yes, you are indeed a coach.
I'll just have a listen.
I just got schooled. I just got coached by you, and so did everybody else. So let's do more of these for sure.
Love it. I'll come back anytime and we'll chat about anything you want.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you, Justin. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate everybody's time.
Cool.
All right.
Thanks, JoAnn.
Thanks, guys. See ya.